Anybody that seems like a potential threat is like instantly getting taken out.
Used a silencer to avoid waking up the rest of the family, and they
Yo, this guy's a movie, bro. He knew he loves his daughter so much. When the bullet goes off, he doesn't want her to wake up screaming and say, "Oh, what's that noise?" So he put the suppressor on the blicky. So when he shoot him, the man gonna die in peace. So the daughter don't wake up. This man is a next level. When dad is a serial killer, case of yeah. Let's get straight to the video. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Look at the girl on the right in this picture. Her name is Trudi Warwick. She looks happy and safe in her mother's arms. But this picture hides a disturbing secret. Wherever Trudi and her mom go, violent bombings follow.
Whoa.
And the truth behind the attacks will
Yo, D! Appreciate you for the 100 ball! Appreciate you for the 100 biddies!
For one of Australia's most notorious serial killers.
Oh, Australia.
Justice was shot in front of his Woollahra home.
For a bomb blast which ripped through a crowded Jehovah's Witness church hall in
shards of glass impacted into the body of a 12-year-old.
So why does every time this lady and her family goes anywhere, they getting bombed? Who, like, what ops do you have? You know what I mean? What did you do to somebody to make them want to follow you around, nuking up everywhere you go?
Oh, girl.
Honestly.
10,000 witnesses must be wondering what they've done to draw such
4 attacks, 1 terrorist. Jeez.
The attacker known as the Family Court Bomber terrorizes Sydney for years, and the entire community lives in fear, not knowing when or where they will strike next. Even the police can't keep little Trudi safe.
Isn't that one of them things that you could like put somebody in jail for? Like if someone were to walk around and every time this person went somewhere, a bad mass event happened, right? I feel like that would eventually get tied back to that person. Like, couldn't that person like go to jail or police hold them in custody or something? Like, what is it?
Because one man is willing to burn down Australia to get to her.
He stopped at nothing in his quest to keep custody of his daughter. He took it personally because everybody that stood
He's doing it for his daughter. Understandable.
in his way,
I see it.
he went after all of them.
Everyone was scared of him. Everyone who confronted him, their lives were in danger.
The police told me
Did he go
you're
too
next
far?
on his hit list.
I had to do something to stop all these killings. What choice did I have?
Pre 1,000. Bro, it's not. How the first thing you say is pre 1,000 pauses? Gang, it's not going to be 1,000 pauses. Maybe 999, but not 1,000. I'm not going to make it that far.
It's June 1978. Andrea Warwick and her husband Leonard have just welcomed their first child, Trudi. They live in Casula, a suburb of Sydney, Australia. Leonard is a firefighter, but while he spends his time at work rescuing people, at home, he's controlling and violent to his wife. He quickly becomes possessive of their newborn daughter. He doesn't let anyone enter the house or see her, even Andrea's friends and family. On Andrea's birthday, her sisters and their children try to visit, enraging Leonard.
And they knocked on the door, and he wasn't going to allow them to come in.
His father is Thanos. Exactly. That's kind of crazy though, because it's like your dad being a mafia boss. Like he's willing to go to any lengths for you. I feel like that's like, it's a beautiful thing, but that's also a scary thing because it's just like, what if Trudi here, right? I'm assuming this is the child's name. The child's name is Trudi. Imagine Trudi has soccer practice, right? Bullying her and then kicks her, or you know what I'm saying, during the soccer practice, like it's part of the game, slide tackling her to hell. You know what I mean? And then the dad sees it, talks to the parents saying, hey, tell your child to stop targeting my kid. And then their parents are like, bro, I don't care. And then boom, their house get nuked. You know what I mean? AC-130s just like go crazy, ramps, all of that, bro.
So I just pushed past him. I said,
I feel like that's a scary thing, but it's just like, you could never have somebody really be like, yo, bro, anybody that seems like a potential threat is like instantly getting taken out.
After they left, he got violent. And he had his fireman boots on, and he stood on my leg and just thrashed into my arm, ran in to try and pick up Trudi. I couldn't pick her up. My arm was bunged.
Oh, that's the mom.
I thought, this is it. She's going to kill me.
After years of enduring an abusive relationship, Andrea finds the strength to get out and tell her family. She runs to safety at her sister Judy's house, pleading for help. Judy is shocked to hear about Leonard's violence.
That was the first I knew. And I said to Andrea, why didn't you tell me? She said I was too ashamed and, I had no idea.
Because of how badly Leonard hurt her, Andrea couldn't get Trudi out of the house, but she won't give up her fight to get her back. She turns to the family law court to start the divorce process, hoping they can help keep her daughter safe. She gets full custody of Trudi, and they move in with Andrea's dad, Leslie, and her brother Stephen. Leonard gets visiting rights, but it's not enough for him. He keeps their daughter longer than he's supposed to, completely ignoring the visitation schedule. Leonard doesn't care about the court's orders. And
that sounds sad though. You're restricted to seeing how many times you can see your daughter, bro.
Andrea decides to confront him to get Trudi back. Worried that Leonard might hurt her again, Andrea asks her brother Stephen to go with her, and they approach Leonard together.
Stephen took Andrea up,
he's not here
knocked
anymore.
on the door and said, Len, look, we don't want any trouble. Because Stephen was very softly spoken. I don't think I ever heard him raise his voice.
Stephen calmly asks Leonard for Trudi, but Leonard slams the door closed, refusing to give her up.
Whoa.
Andrea has to go back to court for help getting Trudi back, but they have no idea how far her father will go to keep her. It's February 22nd, 1980. Andrea wakes up, expecting to say good morning to Stephen, but he's not in his room. At first,
Stephen's the uncle, correct?
She doesn't think much of it, figuring he must be visiting his girlfriend or out surfing with his friends. But as hours pass without hearing from him, she starts to panic.
The Thursday night was the last time I saw Stephen. He was on the phone talking to Mum. The following morning, and I noticed his bedding was gone and his pillow was gone.
Andrea makes phone calls, but no one has seen Stephen since the night of February 21st. Something is horribly wrong. Police come to investigate the house, and they find specks of blood in his bedroom. 6 days
Yep. He got killed, bro. You know how I knew he got killed? Was the way that when they showed his name, they always showed younger pictures of the girls, but then after when they showed him, it was just one of them them high school photos where they sit there like one of these. You know how the photo guy, he be saying, lock in, put your shoulder.
Later, a group of friends are out boating at Cowan Creek in the Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park in northern Sydney. Suddenly, they see something floating in the water.
Us, man.
They call the police, who take over and start their investigation.
Andrea says, we found Stephen. And I just automatically said, oh, is he all right? He says, we've got some bad news. That's when they told me.
Police find that Stephen Blanchard was shot and killed at home in the middle of the night. The attacker likely used a silencer to avoid waking up the rest of the family. Then they...
Nah, this guy... Yo, this guy's a movie, bro. He knew he loves his daughter so much. When the bullet goes off, he doesn't want her to wake up screaming and say, oh, what's that noise? So he put the suppressor on the blicky, so when he shoot him, the man gonna die in peace so the daughter don't wake up. This man is a next level.
He drove to Cowan Creek and used a boat so they could drop his body in the middle of the water. His body was weighed down with bricks, and investigators find they were tied with the fireman's pocket line. But they don't discover any other evidence to help them catch the killer. The Blanchard family now has to face life without Stephen.
I was expecting to walk home. Didn't expect that. He had his whole life ahead of him. He was 25 years old. He never hurt anyone.
While grieving the loss of her brother, Andrea also has to continue her custody battle. Leonard keeps ignoring the court's orders, repeatedly keeping Trudi longer than he's supposed to. April 1980. Because of Leonard's constant disrespect of the family court, Justice David Opus says he can't see his daughter for a month.
Whoa.
Leonard is furious.
This guy said it. You can't... The man who was borderline convicted or was semi-related to a death of somebody after his daughter, he wasn't allowed to see his daughter. So this man decided to say, no, you can't see your daughter for another month. Okay.
When he sees Andrea at the court building, he gives her an ominous message.
He said to me, he says, oh, you don't have to worry about Judge Opus. I said, oh, is he going away on holidays? And he said, oh no, you just don't have to worry about him.
Oh,
June 23rd, 1980, 7:10 p.m. 4 months after Stephen Blanchard's murder, Justice David Opus is having dinner with his wife, Kristen, and his kids, Josh and Persia, when the doorbell rings. His son Josh tells him to stay at the table and not answer it, but he does. And when he goes to greet the person at the door, he is shot with a .22 caliber rifle.
Damn.
A man runs away from the scene, and Justice Opus's family rushes to his side, but it's too late.
After the phone
What?
call...
Cold blood. As soon as the door opened, bow.
From the police and told me that Judge Opus was murdered. When I put the receiver down,
I couldn't even imagine imagine that at the dinner table, bro. You're sitting there with your dad. You hear the doorbell ringing, and like the way that he's described, it's like he always sits with his family and eats dinner. Sitting there vibing, ding dong, goes up into the door, shot right in front of his family, bro.
I thought, something's going on here. There's got to be...
This is sick, man.
It's a connection.
Andrea is already suspicious because Leonard was...
I ain't gonna lie, isn't all of this enough to really it all goes back to what I was saying earlier. A guy died, right? Or this guy was shot, then another guy's body got dumped into the water, and all of them seem to have in contact with one particular person.
Angry at Justice Opus for restricting his access to Trudi. Andrea tells police she thinks Leonard is involved. Investigators search his locker at the fire station where he works. They find newspapers with headlines about the murder, but no physical evidence that can link him to the scene. Leonard also refuses to answer any questions from the police. As a family court justice, David Opus dealt with many people who could want revenge for his orders. 30 detectives work on the case. They interview over 500 people who appeared in front of Justice Opus in court, along with 2,500 people who bought rifles in the last 6 months. They can't find any clues or get closer to an arrest, and a killer is on the loose. The people of Sydney worry that the whole family court system is the target. Another family court justice, Richard G., takes over Justice Opus's cases after his murder.
Is this Richard
and his
G on
family
the end?
fears they could be next.
Well, I knew that Justice Opus had been shot dead, and then Dad said they've offered me the job to replace him. And I just had this, well, I don't know, call it sixth sense that something was going to happen to us.
Oh, shoot.
But years pass without any other attacks, and the paranoia begins to fade. Andrea tries to give Trudi a happy childhood, but the nightmare is far from over. March 6th, 1984, almost 4 years after Justice Opus's murder, Justice Richard G. is at home with his children, Allison and Stephen. It's around 1:45 a.m., and they're all asleep. Suddenly, a bomb goes off, destroying most of the home.
I just had a really loud...
Whoa! Wait! First of all, I knew it was gonna get worse. We're only 8 minutes in a 24-minute video. But bomb? He was was the gun not enough? I'm truly thinking about it. Was the gun not enough to satisfy this man? He had to blow up a whole portion of another man's house?
Clapathon.
And it seems to be that he didn't actually go and he didn't actually he was assigned to the case, but he wasn't actually you know what I mean? He didn't actually say anything. Where does one achieve a bomb? They probably made it. He probably made the bomb or found someone or knew somebody that could make a bomb.
The loudest I'd ever heard. Just saw debris all in my room, and it was just like I'd woken up in a movie or a nightmare.
Bro.
Allison finds her brother, and they frantically try to get out of the house, desperately hoping their dad also made it out. They make it out safely through a window. They find their dad around the back of the house, injured, but alive.
He was covered in debris dust. Over his whole body looked like a ghost, except that he had blood pouring down his legs from his thighs. I just cried. I just felt really sad. Just looks like a war zone.
Miraculously, the whole family survives. But it's clear someone is still out for revenge.
This is
right
lovely.
away, police warn other judges to check their homes and cars, and they search family courts across Australia. Investigators also look into all the cases that Justice Richard G. oversaw. Andrea again tells them that Leonard is the culprit. Justice G. had further restricted Leonard's access to Trudi.
Oh no. Oh, so he also did it as well.
And issued an arrest warrant when he failed to return her.
This was an attack on the administration of justice in Australia. Judges would make a ruling against him, and he responded with lethal force.
We wanted justice served. It's Leonard John Warwick. I said, he is the only person.
Arrest him.
Every time I spoke to him.
Isn't this enough to arrest somebody by now? I'm curious.
It's him.
Andrea knows that her ex's violence is getting closer and closer to her, and she has to continuously...
All I gotta say is, couldn't you just get a warrant? This is not the U.S. This is not the U.S.
face the man hunting her in court. Their next court appearance was scheduled for April 16th, 1984, just over a month after the bomb at Justice G's house. But in the middle of the night before Leonard was supposed to appear, the family law court building itself is largely destroyed as another bomb detonates.
Oh my...
Fear and panic is spreading throughout Sydney. Again, Andrea alerts investigators about Leonard's connection to the attacks, but still, he continues to walk free.
So he blew
It
up
becomes
the
clear to
courthouse?
Andrea that no one can keep her and Trudi safe from him, not even the police. He doesn't leave evidence behind, and unless someone can get him to stop, anyone with connections to the family court is in danger.
We did know that the offender was Warwick. Everything was done that could be done at the time. We couldn't gather enough evidence to charge him then.
How? Couldn't you have just got him in for probable cause? Like, you're a bit suspicious. Can we talk to you? Or like get a warrant to search his house or something? Or
As Justice Richard G.
something?
recovers from his injuries after the bombing at his house, Ray Watson takes over his cases, including Leonard and Andrea's. Even with fear and suspicion growing, Andrea still respects the visitation rights set by the court. Trudi loves her father and is happy to see him, but Andrea has to keep returning to court because Leonard still ignores the court's orders.
One time I
Damn.
didn't see Trudi for 6 weeks. Didn't
Whoa,
even know
over
where
a
she
month?
was.
Like the other judges, Justice Watson punishes Leonard by restricting his access to Trudi
Damn, you're
even
cooked.
more.
You're cooked.
It's July 4th,
You're cooked.
1984,
You're cooked.
8:10 a.m. Almost 3
House
months
finna get,
after
like,
the family
bombed,
court
bro.
bombing, Justice Watson gets ready to leave for work. His wife Pearl opens the door of their house, unknowingly triggering a bomb that was fixed to their front door.
I told you. I literally said that. I literally said that, bro.
Ray Watson survives, but Pearl is killed instantly. The people of Sydney, stunned and heartbroken, demand answers. After Pearl Watson's murder,
Okay, isn't this enough to just get the same, like, isn't this the same, like, I feel like this should be enough evidence.
investigators ramp up their efforts. A joint federal state police task force is established, and a $500,000
persons
reward is offered.
All family court judges, their courts and their families
Oh, that is
will
a
have a
crazy
24-hour
haircut.
surveillance until
That is a crazy
this
haircut.
matter's resolved.
We had federal surveillance officers and state surveillance officers. We used up virtually every surveillance officer in New South Wales and Australia.
Surveillance officers follow the prime suspect, Leonard Warwick, desperate to find something they can use to catch him
Unless he hired somebody to do it. Oh, that's even
and
crazier.
put a stop to all the attacks. In the middle of the night, they follow him to a national park.
He kept going back to the national park on a total of 11 occasions. We went in with police dogs after he left when he was way out of the area. It was never really ironed out as to what he was doing there. I put it down to the fact that he was playing games with the surveillance officers.
February 10th, 1985. Police tell Andrea there was an attempt on her lawyer's life with another
Oh,
bomb.
shoot.
Fortunately, it was found before it could detonate,
Oh my
and
gosh.
no one was hurt. But shortly after, she gets a call from her lawyer, Gary Watts.
And he said,
That's the
"I
same
won't
guy
be
from earlier."
able to act on your behalf, and that was it. He was scared. He was
he said,
frightened.
Fair enough.
And I don't blame him.
I've never met a person as dangerous as what Leonard Warwick is. He stopped at nothing in his quest to keep custody of
For
his
his
daughter. He took it personally because everybody that stood in his way, he went after all of them.
What the
Fear is spreading throughout Australia.
Why does this place look beautiful, bro? W Sydney.
Anyone could be a target, and no one can help Andrea. Even police are scared about their involvement in the investigation.
One of the surveillance officers said, look, I think we've got a worry because Warwick's sitting in the park watching police headquarters. A witness that I interviewed said he was looking for my address. The wife and the kids, I had his police photo on the fridge, that if he was ever sighted in the neighbourhood, they would notify us immediately.
As Leonard intimidates the police with his own surveillance, the attacks keep getting closer to home for Andrea. All the while, she tries to shield Trudi from the violence that haunts them, and it's taking a massive toll. Leonard already has his eyes on his next target, as he makes phone calls to Andrea's sister, Judy, threatening to kill her and her children.
The police told me you're next on his hit list.
Every noise, I'd wake up.
Who's Judy again? I ain't gonna lie to you. They keep saying all these dang first names. I mean, is that the wife of her lawyer, or is that her sister?
We were looking
might be her
over our
sister.
shoulder all that time. We were going to be next.
Even though Andrea and the police believe Leonard is responsible for all the attacks, they still haven't been able to find anything they can use to arrest him. They've tried surveillance, offering reward money, and putting numerous detectives and resources into their efforts, but nothing is working. Andrea is terrified. Leonard stalks her, often parking in front of the house and watching her every move. One day, he shows up at the house and yells at Andrea, demanding to see Trudi for an unscheduled visit. When she says no, he grabs Trudi anyway and starts to run. But Andrea chases him, refusing to let him take her away. In response, he punches Andrea in the face.
Damn.
Shocked, she quickly gets Trudi and runs back inside, locking the doors behind them. Andrea is desperate to get herself
Wait a second. So you walked outside when you heard him? Like, wouldn't it have been smarter to like let him break open the door? Like, if you just like let him break open the door, then couldn't you have like that would be enough to get him charged for something, correct? That could get him away. And I feel like he wouldn't do it because he'd be like, he cares so much about his daughter. Get the knife out. No. Because remember, that's the father of your daughter. You know what I mean? So you don't want to really, you know, like, you imagine what that trauma is. Yeah, my mom, you know, the mom killed the dad. That is crazy. So it's like, I feel like the best thing you could do is just allow the dad to just make it further make himself look crazy. You know what I mean? So probably allow him to just bang on the door, ignore everything he's saying, maybe call the police. Do not step outside, be like, no, because you stepped outside and you got punched in the face and you ran back in the house. And I'm not blaming that on you. I'm just saying that this is a crazy situation. That is a crazy man. And I don't know what you saw in him to let things happen the way that they did, or
family away from him.
How the frick did you not know what he knows a lot of people?
And his violence.
Brother,
even
what?
with the threat to her life, Andrea's sister Judy steps in, a devout Jehovah's Witness. Judy turns to her congregation for help. They need to escape in secret to stay safe from Leonard. Her congregation steps up, helping them move away so they could hide.
We didn't tell anyone why we were moving.
Even the drivers of the truck didn't know where we were heading until an hour before we got to Foster. No one knew. We sort of made it a fun game for the kids, a drill that if ever Len found us, we had an escape plan to get out.
Oh gosh.
Andrea does all she can to protect her daughter from Leonard and the destruction that follows them. Leonard doesn't know where Andrea and Trudi went, but he won't give up his search. He makes multiple phone calls to members of Judy's congregation, demanding to know where they are.
There was a third call. He was very upset. He again said, "You must know where she's gone." "Listen, mate," I said, "we don't know where she's gone. Do not call here again."
July 1985.
I feel like he probably one of them guys who took that personally. He saw it as a threat. What do you mean, not call here again? And he gonna blow up your whole spot?
5 months after Andrea and Trudi made their escape, Leonard hasn't found them, and there haven't been any more attacks. But there are 2 break-ins at the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall in Casula, southwest of Sydney. During one of the break-ins, a window shatters and cuts the intruder. They leave blood on the carpet, but with the limited capabilities of the time, investigators can only—
Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. Because technology had not advanced back in 1987. Now that they couldn't even use like blood analysis to see whose blood it was. Oh my gosh,
determine that it's O positive, and they can't use it to charge anyone. They don't find that anything was stolen, and no one knows why the intruder broke in or what they did. It's Sunday, July 21st, 1985. The congregation starts their service like usual. There are over 100 members in the building, including Joy Wykes and her husband, Graham.
We were holding hands, and I thought, oh, his hand would be really cold. So we had a small rug over our knee, and I pulled it up over our hands, and he turned to me and whispered, "I love you." And that was the last thing I remember. Turned to me and small rug over our knee, and I pulled it up over our hands, and he turned to me and whispered, "I love you." And that.
So they went to church. Looked at each other, said, "I love you," and then
was the last thing I remember.
It exploded.
My first memories was really in ICU. I had already been into surgery. I recall asking, "Where's my husband? Where's my husband?" all afternoon. A doctor came and told me, "We do have bad news for you." And I'd been asking, and I must have already realised that he wasn't going to be there.
Oh, that's sad.
A bomb was placed under the stage at the Kingdom Hall. Time to go off during the service.
I ain't gonna lie to you. Guys, I'm gonna put y'all on some game real quick. When it comes to finding someone that's crazy, all for my fellas out there that be messing with them crazy bad Johns, right? There's red flags all the way show. You know what I mean? Like, person can only put up an image for so long until the bits and pieces of who they really are start to slip through the cracks. You know what I mean? And when stuff slips through the cracks, that's the kind of stuff you don't just ignore. You do not ignore that kind of stuff. And you may be sitting there, rose glasses, you know what I mean? Seeing she a badge on, she this, she that. I love her so much. She gonna be my wife. She has tendencies to do some very weird things to a lot of people. Okay? Don't let that go over your head. Okay? Stay focused and stay locked in, bro. I don't know what she saw in him to not realize that, oh, was he maybe aggressive a little bit earlier? Or did she just like, oh, that's just him being aggressive? He hit you. He struck you. He stomped on your arm. Like, what? Like, I know this was after the kid, but like, what?
Graham Wykes is killed, and dozens more have life-threatening injuries, including little children. The Blanchard family is devastated to hear the news.
I just burst out crying. I could not speak for a long time.
The whole church blew
They
up,
announced
bro.
that the hall had been bombed. My daughter Natasha was standing next to me and she said, "Mum, that was Len." My whole body was shaking. And I rang down the bomb squad. They had their suspicions. And I said, "That's my congregation." And they said, "Oh, that's what the connection is."
Okay, I think this is enough. I think this is enough for us to put his ass in jail. Maybe 10 minutes ago, it was a guarantee. I think anything after this, it's like you want more people to die. I'm gonna be so honest with you. If you do not take this man into custody after this, you want more people to die. It has to be. That's the only thing that's making sense right now. There's too much things that connect back to him. You know what I mean? Even like a little simple questioning, a lie detector test, something.
Wykes had helped the Blanchards pack for their escape, and Andrea blames herself for Graham's death and all the injuries at the Kingdom Hall. Police take a search warrant to Leonard's house, and they find handwritten notes with phone numbers of Jehovah's Witness members, but he refuses to answer any questions or give a blood sample. Their attempts to catch him are still hopeless.
Everyone was scared of him. Everyone who confronted him, their lives were in danger.
The attacks continue to follow Andrea everywhere she goes, even when she escapes Leonard's stalking. She is overwhelmed with sadness, fear, and guilt.
That is sad,
She
bro.
knows what Leonard wants, and that people throughout Australia will continue to die unless he gets it. Andrea makes a heartbreaking choice in a desperate attempt to end his reign of terror. She gives him full custody of their daughter Trudi.
I had to do something to stop all these killings. It was heartbreaking saying goodbye to her, but I had to.
What? Oh my gosh, bro. I'm telling you, bro, the old police system used to be some dog crap. Like, absolute dog crap, man.
What choice did they have?
Like,
Over the
this
course
should have
of
been
nearly
enough
10
evidence
years,
to put him in jail,
Andrea
bro.
has suffered immensely. She was in a physically and emotionally abusive relationship. She made the brave choice to get out, but her fight never stopped. Her own brother was murdered, and after 4 bombings, 3 more murders, and families ripped apart by violence and destruction, Andrea knows she is the only one who can stop the family court bomber. Trudi also wants to live with her father, exhausted from constantly moving around and being in the middle of the fighting between her parents.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I could look at it from the child's perspective. It's like every time I'm with my mom, we always gotta move around. We always gotta go to different houses. And my mom always looked like she's scared all the time. She always looked like she has anxiety. And my mom looked like she always going through it. As a child, you can pick up on that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then on the other hand, you go to your dad's house. He picks you up in the car. You go back to his house. You hang out with dad. You and dad eat ice cream, eat dinner together. You know what I'm saying? Read bedtime stories. And then with mom, you're always moving house to house, place to place. Like, I could see how from a child's perspective, it's like, yo, I'd rather go hang out with dad because mom is doing too much. You know what I mean?
Andrea predicted the attacks come to an abrupt end, but with a huge sacrifice. Leonard Warwick is still a completely free man, and now he has their daughter too. It had a massive impact, and she never stopped fighting for justice.
How do you live without your daughter?
You think about her all the time.
Whoa.
Is she going to school? Does she get along with her father?
Oh, that's
Trudi
the daughter
spends
right
her
there.
childhood living with Leonard, who many think of as the family court bomber. At first, she likes living with her father. He even buys horses for them to ride together, but as she gets older, She realizes how controlling he is. He constantly tries to keep her in the house, away from friends and family. And when he decides to remarry and start a new family, Trudi isn't happy. At 16 years old, she leaves to move back in with her mom. And shockingly, Leonard doesn't stop her.
He chose the wife over.
So he say he doesn't care. He's like, okay, now I actually have a good wife, and I have a good, like I have something else to control now. Control freak.
Yeah. This is the daughter he fought so hard for.
Yes.
I don't get that.
His daughter was just a possession.
Yeah.
After getting everything he wanted and all the destruction and suffering he caused, Leonard lets his target Trudi go easily. Finally, Andrea is reunited with her daughter, but they still aren't truly free of Leonard. As Trudi grows older, she gets a better understanding of what happened when she was little. From the beginning, Trudi's mom has repeatedly told police that Leonard Warwick is the man who terrorized Sydney for years. Despite her efforts, he thinks he will get away with everything, and for decades, he does, until one mistake will come back to haunt him.
Oh shoot, what is it?
It becomes one of the coldest cases in Australian history. Andrea had no one to turn to, but in 2012, investigative crime...
2012? This has been going on since like 1970, 1980s, and this John was just figured out like 8 years ago? Wait, 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 3, that's 13 years ago.
Debbie Marshall and Ross Coulthart hear of the case and decide to investigate. But everywhere they turn for information, they're warned. The prime suspect is still free, and pursuing the story could get them killed. Debbie Marshall even tries to interview Leonard, and he threatens her. But the journalists work together with Andrea Blanchard to bring attention back to the case, all of them refusing to back down in their fight for justice. With the help of their work and the release of Debbie Marshall's book, investigators reopened the cold case.
Finally.
Kevin Woods, the former lead investigator, never forgot about the family court bomber. He remembers the bloodstain left on the carpet before the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall bombing, when an intruder was cut with the glass from a window. They didn't know it at the time, but the attacker broke in to plant the bomb. Kevin Woods tells the current investigators about the blood sample, which could be the key to exposing the person behind all the attacks. Detectives ask Trudi if she would give a DNA sample for them to compare it with. At first, she hesitates. She still loves her father, and she's worried about betraying him. She knows it could send him to jail if it's a match, but she wants the truth for herself and for all the other victims' families.
That's true though. It's like you love your dad, but your dad also killed millions or not millions, a couple people, bro. Like you ruined families permanently.
She says, people need answers, closure. Innocent people were killed over me. If you commit something like these crimes, you should be held accountable for it. I don't care who you are. With advancements in DNA technology, they are able to match the blood with Trudi's, removing any doubt that Leonard Warwick is the culprit behind all the attacks. It's July 29th, 2015. Over 35 years after he began terrorizing the people of Sydney, Leonard Warwick's past finally catches up to him.
Tonight, an arrest over one of Sydney's biggest unsolved crimes. A man in custody over the family court bombings and murders in the 1980s.
The judge-only trial lasts almost 2 years. Warwick pleads not guilty to over 20 charges against him. But with the overwhelming evidence and the help of Andrea's testimony, he's convicted, and he gets 3 life sentences without parole. Leonard Warwick is finally behind bars, and he will never be able to hurt anyone again. After nearly 40 years of living in fear, Andrea can truly begin to move on with her life. She still has a very close relationship with Judy and Trudi, and they continue to honor Stephen's memory today. Andrea hopes her story will bring awareness and support to survivors of domestic violence. She encourages others in similar situations to get out of the relationship and seek help.
You've got to think of yourself, and if there's children involved, you've got to think of the children's lives. It's a hard battle to get back on your feet.
I agree. This is a very dangerous thing to be in. That's why I say to y'all, do not ignore the red flags. I don't know, they probably had a very good relationship beforehand, and then, you know, things happen, but there had to be some times where sometime he slipped up and she probably just didn't peep it. But regardless, man, this is a movie, bro.
But there's so much.
That's the most valuable daughter, bro.
Help out there today. I say to any woman, you
4 innocent people died just for even looking at the case.
Don't have to stand for that. There's no need to stand for that fight.
Damn, bro. That was a great video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Kiddabsolute. I'm going to catch y'all next one. BTL for L.